DEI, or Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, is changing the face of everything we know in media. For better or worse, regardless of which side of the fence you stand on, there is no question that it is changing. If you are of the opinion that inserting social justice narratives like gender politics, trans visibility, feminism, or the agendas of other marginalized groups of the population, yes, marginalized is in heavy quotations here, it is a negative thing for games and media. You don't have to look very far back to find things the way you remember them. My next video is going to dive into this in depth, but before 2016, Hollywood and the games industry still had politics. Media has always been full of ideas, some good, some bad, but somewhere along the way, the human race lost the art of subtlety. And now instead of allegory and parody, we just get hit over the head with whatever agenda is the flavor of the week. The good news is that if you are uncomfortable with the messaging in modern media and the push towards a modern audience that frankly barely exists, there are decades of old games, movies, and comics that will suit you better, and often they are better to boot.
I'm so sick of the modern era of gaming, with DEI being injected into every game for the sole purpose of trying to raise ESG scores. And some of these developers that are getting hired on probably don't even know that that's why they're being brought into these studios, because they have their own narratives and agendas that fit perfectly with the ideologies being pushed right now. It's almost like times were better back in the day when the PS3 was around, the pinnacle of gaming, when graphics were great, agendas were minimum, and there was no ideologies being injected anywhere in any of the games. There were no boardrooms, no checkboxes. It was strictly developers making games with the sheer passion of making a great experience to be enjoyed by the gamers.
Buying retro games puts zero money in the pockets of developers that are choosing to ruin our games. The PlayStation 3 is the perfect meet in the middle between modern enough to look pretty good, but retro enough that the only thing they wanted to do was make a good game, and try not to indoctrinate us with every new entry. So many of the most talked about games this generation are remakes and remasters of games from the 6th and 7th generation. Unfortunately, in almost every case, changes are being made to these games to make them fundamentally worse. Censorship is at an all-time high these days, and anything leading towards sexual content or even sexualized characters is being drastically altered. Female characters are aggressively being made uglier, male characters are being made weaker, and white characters are being written as the villains, while purple-haired Mary Sues save the day with absolutely no character growth. Many of the games that suffer from this modern vision had their original versions on the PS3. Between the actual PS3 games and HD collections of PS2 games, the PS3 has an enormous library of quality games to choose from. Silent Hill 2 was just remade recently, and while being pretty well received and achieving pretty good scores, it definitely suffers from many small changes that actively make the game worse in many ways than the original. Silent Hill 2 is available on the PS3 in a collection, although it might not be the best version of the game, but guess what? The characters look like the original artist intended them to look, and they haven't altered the narrative one bit. The PlayStation 3 has the original versions of many of the best games you are still playing today, all blissfully free of any influence other than the artistic vision of the developer. Let's be clear, I don't have a problem with people having representation and feeling seen, but when you're retconning something that already exists to fit a narrative, that really gets under my skin. Seems like these days, every single game that comes out, there's a new story about how they've done something crazy to fit a narrative, whether it's surgery scars in a character creator, or limiting the romance options in a game based on sexual orientation, the continual removal of sexually attractive women from games. None of this is present in glorious 720p on the PlayStation 3. As of right now, October 2024, PlayStation 3 digital storefront is still online, so if you buy an older version of a game, that money actually does go to the developer and they see you supporting the original product and not the bastardized remake. Otherwise, buying used physical games puts $0 in the hands of people who want to destroy your games. Let's look at some of the games that remind us of how gaming used to be. Call of Duty. Before Art the Clown and Homelander skins made Call of Duty a joke, we had serious military themes set in realistic environments. There were no booster suits, just soldiers with guns. Lots of guns. The PS3 holds arguably the 4 best games in the franchise: Black Ops 1 and 2, and Modern Warfare 2 and 3. The real ones, not the crappy remakes. Remember when COD games had great campaigns and fully fleshed out couch co-op? Nazi zombies, anyone? You and a friend getting all of the stars and unlocking all of the perks in Modern Warfare 2, doing those crazy missions? They still exist, and they're still awesome. Mass Effect Trilogy. The idea of making choices that affect the outcome of the game was pretty much pioneered with the developer BioWare. Games like Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic set the standard, and Mass Effect took it to a whole new level. Sure, there was an awesome remaster a couple of years ago on modern systems, but aside from upscaled visuals, the PS3 has all the content you would want. Mass Effect, and particularly the second game, are considered to be among the best games of the generation and should not be missed. Dragon Age. Speaking of BioWare, if you're put off by all the DEI agendas present in the newest game, Dragon Age the Veilguard, you can go back to the PS3 and play several of the greatest games ever made under this title. Dragon Age Origins, Dragon Age 2, and Inquisition are all fantastic games that are very much worth your time, as these games can be found physically for as little as $5, at least at the time of recording this video. You have little to lose and much to gain. These fantastic high fantasy RPGs have hundreds of hours of enjoyment on offer to keep your PS3 on its toes. God of War. With the rumor of a potential remaster of the original games and the question of censorship looming overhead, why not play the way that God, the god of Olympus that is, intended? The first 3 games and a couple of smaller titles are available in all their uncensored glory, complete with the sexy mini-games. You know that will be cut out of the remaster, right? These games still look and run fantastic. They were graphical showcases in their time, and they still hold up to this day. Crazy over-the-top action, Greek mythology, gods, monsters, what's not to love? Borderlands. You might have played these games on modern systems. They have been re-released multiple times, but if somehow you missed these awesome shooters, or you saw the god-awful movie and want to go back and see if it can possibly be that bad, fear not. The mighty PS3 has Borderlands 1, 2, and the pre-sequel, and the experience is pretty much the same. Awesome atmosphere, cool story and characters, and fast-paced gunplay. Wet. A fabulously gory game led by Ruby, a dual-gun-wielding, sword-carrying femme fatale. She shoots and slashes her way through hordes of enemies in parkour-style action. Over the top, campy, and irreverent. This is not a game that publisher Bethesda would attach its name to today. Sexy outfits, edgy dialogue, and intense blood and gore would all be censored. You know it's true. We did see our next game get a remaster, and it wasn't horribly censored, so maybe it could happen, but who knows. Lollipop Chainsaw. Another game inspired by a teenage boy's fantasies, Lollipop Chainsaw follows a scantily clad high school cheerleader as she tries to save the world from a zombie apocalypse with a chainsaw. Another fever dream created by legendary developer Suda51 and creative director James Gunn, now known for his work on several superhero movies. The game is stylish and flashy with intense hack-and-slash combat. The main character Juliet is far from a typical teenager, but she still has to look good while slaying zombies. Shame on us chuds for liking anything as exploitative as this, right? Shadows of the Damned. A man ventures into the city of the damned to save his girlfriend from ravenous demons. What could be better than that teenage dream? Written by famous developer Suda51, the guy responsible for No More Heroes, Killer 7, and the game before this on the list, this game is edgy and immature in all the right ways and definitely worth your time. Catherine, bored of your girlfriend? Afraid of getting stuck in this relationship forever? Start hitting on a new girl and then start feeling really guilty? We've all been there, right? In this crazy dream world, your girlfriend haunts you and you must escape a tower of horror with her chasing you from the bottom. She's getting ever closer, and if she catches you, who knows if you'll ever wake up from the dream. This weird block puzzle game wrapped around the craziest love triangle will have you sweating in your sheets. Bayonetta. A woman in sexy outfits, oh my! Boobs and butts and bondage, oh my! While Nintendo has been pretty faithful preserving the tone of this series with its sequels and spin-offs, the original high-action masterpiece exists in all its full glory on the PS3. Why shouldn't you slay demons in the sexiest outfit possible? Dead Space. While the first game has been masterfully remade, the original and its sequels were groundbreaking on 7th gen consoles, and they are still a riveting, pun fully intended, experience on the PS3. Still an intense and horrifying series in its native resolution, and cheap. You can buy these games for $5 to $10, and they're fantastic. Dark Souls. You loved Elden Ring, you loved Sekiro, you worship at the throne of Bloodborne, so why not see where the genre spawned from? Demon Souls and Dark Souls 1 to 3 are all available to play on the PS3 in all their wonderful janky glory. You want a game that will eat you for breakfast and spit out a slimy skeleton? Look no further than the genesis of the genre. And guess what? They're all preserved on disc. No 50 gig updates, no battle passes, just insert the disc and play. If you dare. Grand Theft Auto. One of the best-selling games of all time started out on 7th gen consoles, GTA 5. If you somehow managed to miss it, it is still fully playable on the PS3, as well as the highly unappreciated GTA 4. There is also a side game, Liberty City Stories, as well as a really cool remaster of the PS2 hit San Andreas. If you've played a GTA game, you know what you're getting into with any of these, and they all run and look incredible. A true showcase of what the PS3 can do. Beat up hookers, shoot at cops, commit vehicular homicide. The worlds of GTA are your oyster, and I think that era is fast disappearing. There are thousands of games on the PS3 and virtually unlimited possibilities for incredible gameplay, no matter what type of game you prefer. I have almost 250 physical games in my collection, and there are so many more that I want. If you like the idea of playing the original versions of games without any modern tampering, this console is your holy grail. Sure, sometimes the graphics can be a bit crunchy. Sometimes the most demanding games might have questionable frame rates, but if a game is good, I can look past that. What are your favorite games on this list, or are there games from your past that you would really love to go back to? Let me know in the comments below, and a special thanks to my buddy Smash JT for the contribution to today's video. Thanks for watching, thanks for subscribing, stay classy.